everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of McMaster and the Mic. I want to thank you for joining me once again, and today we're going to be talking about The Last Dance. But before we get into that, I want to emphasize the fact that there's not really a schedule here, partially because of the fact that I take a lot of time into these stories. I want to make sure that what I'm saying is correct and that I have, everything in one place and that I can reference, and that takes a while to do. Also, no sports going on, so it's very limited things that I can talk about, but I will say this today. This episode will be going on a Saturday. On Monday, there will be episode 7. That's going to be about the Bears' schedule and what I think it entails. And then episode 8 will either be on a Thursday or a Friday, and that's going to be about Adam Silver and the NBA's plan to get back. So I'm planning on filming all these episodes today, which is Saturday. So just warning you, if I'm in the same outfit for the next 3 episodes, that's why. But, so we're going to go right into it. We're going to be talking about The Last Dance. And I don't really like doing reviews, because I think if you're watching this, if you're watching The Last Dance review, you've already seen the episode. You already have your own opinions and thoughts about it. So I'm not really going to sway you, and I don't really want to sway you any which way. But I think that in this case, this isn't really a review. It's kind of a talk on a topic that I think is really, really interesting. And it's why episode 6 of The Last Dance was probably my favorite out of all the episodes to come, because it makes Michael Jordan human. I think when we think about it a lot, right? When we think about Michael, it's like he's almost inhuman. Like, you want to be the Michael Jordan of something, or to be Michael Jordan is like just out of reach. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be, it's kind of undescribable how people think of Michael Jordan, because they think of him as otherworldly, and especially, like, that's now. Think about it in the 90s, though, when he was up and coming, when he wasn't something of the past, he was the now. And episode 6 did a great job of highlighting just how much pressure Michael had, not only on the court, but off the court. And I think that it was my favorite episode because it did such a fantastic job highlighting it, and we're going to go through it of just how much pressure, and it seemed like Mike was becoming a little bit unhappy, especially in the 93 season, when everything, he said it in the episode. It's like great when you have all this fame and people are talking negative about you or positive about you, but when people start talking negative about you, you really don't like it. You really don't like being in that spotlight. And there was a lot of pressure on the court that he put on himself. He wanted to be the first three-peat. Mike always wanted to be great. He always wanted to outdo Larry and Magic and Wilt and Bill, because those were the people that came before him. And he always wanted to outperform them and prove that what he thought, that he was the best. So getting that three-peat for him was the number one thing. And there was a lot of pressure on the court to do that. Secondarily, there was a lot of pressure off the court, because after the 92 Olympics, and this is kind of where it all starts, he becomes the biggest star in the world. He is the most popular person on the planet after the 92 Olympics, because the Dream Team was huge in Barcelona, and they were put on a world stage. David Stern said it, I didn't quote it here, but he said along the lines that the Dream Team is responsible for the immersion of NBA basketball in the worldly setting. So I think it all starts in 92. He goes to the Olympics, and he proves, another pressure thing for him, he proves to Magic, he proves to Larry, he proves to Charles and anyone there that this is my league, this is my game, I'm the best. He goes, he wins the gold medal. 92 Olympics happens, he's the most famous person in the world, and then he already had endorsements before that, but now it's like, be like Mike. I want to be like Mike. And I think that put a lot of pressure on Michael Jordan. I think a lot of pressure of, I want to be like Mike, because he says at the end of the episode, end of episode 6, if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would never want to be a role model. And the reason why he said that is because when you want to be like Mike, right, not only is that, I want to play basketball like Mike, Michael Jordan was painted an image, like I said, undescribable. To be something like Michael Jordan is to be something that you can't even, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even describe what it is. It's something that you can't even reach. And Gatorade with the whole I want to be like Mike when he's playing with the little kids and he's, bumping them on the butt and he's like playing basketball and he looks happy and everybody looks happy, right? It's like he not only is this guy a phenomenal basketball player, but he's a phenomenal human being. That's how he was painted, and that's how everyone is painted with these endorsements. And with the McDonald's commercial, he's walking through the McDonald's eating an Egg McMuffin with a big smile and laughing. To be Michael Jordan, not only was it to be the greatest basketball player of all time, but it was to be a phenomenal human being. And Mike didn't want that because Mike knew he had things that weren't great about him, that he did stuff that people looked at and didn't think well of. And the number one thing was his gambling. Now, did he have a gambling problem? No, I don't think he had a gambling problem. And the reason is because it was actually in an episode, let me find it here. It was in episode 5, Will Perdue, I think it was one of the first things, yeah. It was, alright, I don't know where it is, but Will Perdue was playing cards in the front of the airplane. And it was him and it was John Paxson and B.J. Armstrong, and they were playing cards for $1, front of the airplane. And Mike was in the back with Ron Harper and Scottie Pippen, and they were playing for big money. Mike comes to the front of the plane and says, "Can I play?" And Paxson was like, "Why do you want to play? We're playing for $1. You're playing for thousands of dollars back there." And Mike's like, "I wanna have your money in my pocket." And I totally agree with Mike. He had a competition problem. Mike wanted to win. He wanted to prove that he was the best in cards, in golf, in basketball. He just wanted to compete, and win. And if money played a role in that, money played a role in that. And David Aldridge said, $10,000 to Mike is like $10 to you. It's a lot of money, but Mike has so much money at the time that it doesn't matter. So that became really prominent in the 1993 season. And a big thing with the 93 season that The Last Dance didn't really mention, they brought up the Knicks and how the Knicks were very threatening to the Bulls and their three-peat. And when you ask people, Stephen A. Smith always says that the 93 Knicks were the biggest threat to Michael through his 8-year or his 90s reign. So they're a big threat, and not only were the Knicks a threat, they had a better record than Michael Jordan, the Bulls, that season. They were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And the big thing is that, like I said before, Mike had a tremendous amount of pressure to perform on the court. And not only with these gambling problems that we'll get to in a bit, we're going on 93, but Patrick Ewing and John Starks and Charles Oakley, they were threatening Mike on the court as well. His reputation was being tarnished off the court, and his reputation on the court was being run at. And that's why there was just so much boiling up in Mike in 1993. So we'll go to the whole gambling problem. There comes out a book, Jordan Rules, by Sam Smith. He was a writer in Chicago at the time. I think he played a pretty big role in doing this Last Dance. He writes a book about how Mike wasn't that great of a guy, that he had major gambling debts with people, that he was a bully on the court, that he was a jerk. Bill Wennington, Will Perdue said, yeah, he was mean to us. And I'm surprised that it took them 6 episodes to get to that point, or 5 episodes to get to the point where, hey, Mike wasn't the greatest guy. Now, I know they mentioned it in episode 1 or 2 where when Scotty was gone, Mike had to push the guys, but I think episode 7 is going to be there's going to be a emphasis on that Mike pushed guys, that Mike was kind of mean, and that he wasn't the greatest dude. And this goes back to a lot of pressure on Mike being the best guy he can be, and then this book comes out and it tarnishes his reputation, and he's taking a lot of hits in the media about this book, and he blames Horace Grant, and there's a whole saga with Horace Grant that it's not my fault. There was a lot of people who wrote it. Either way, Mike is taking a hit in the media. He's taking a hit on the basketball court because for the first time there was a legitimate threat in New York, and he can't take it. And to him, you got to look at the problem of gambling. He's got a gambling problem. The media always asking him. Not only are they only asking him, Mike, are you coming back next year? They're asking him now, Mike, do you have a gambling problem? Mike, you have a gambling problem? Well, that's wrong. Coming back next year was 97, 98. Gambling problem was 93. But still, now they're asking him all the time, Mike, what about this gambling problem? Mike, what about the turmoil in the locker room? Mike, he's the media is being so tedious with Mike, and he's being they're pissing him off. They're making him so mad because he wants to win. He wants to be on the basketball court. He said it last episode. He said about the whole Harvey Gantt situation, right? It goes back to this where Harvey Gantt was a black Democrat in North Carolina. He was running for a Senate spot. I don't remember who he was running against, but the guy who was running against was very racist. And they asked Mike, can you speak on behalf of Harvey Gantt? Can you be an activist? Can you promote Harvey Gantt? Because if he wins in North Carolina, this is a big deal. And Mike said, look, I'm not an activist. What I do is on the basketball court. And he said himself, he's like, yeah, was it selfish of me? Was it selfish of me to go ahead and be like, I want to be on the court and I don't want to get into politics? Yes, it was. But I'm not an activist. I'm a ball player. And that was a big part of Mike and his persona. He wanted to play ball, and he didn't care about the outside stuff. And now you got this book, and they're talking about the gambling problem. Mike, do you have a gambling problem? To him, he doesn't. He doesn't have a gambling problem. And it's annoying because he's always being asked that, and it's taking his mind off of winning another championship, by winning the three-peat, which is all that he wanted to do. And this also, too, a thing that they didn't bring up. They brought up at the end where they're like, Mike, Mike was tired. He was exhausted. He was like, this was a tough year, but we ended it off right, and I got the championship. Something that they don't really bring up is that Mike is probably exhausted. He goes to the finals in 91. He plays till June in 91. He plays till June in 92. He plays in 92. He plays until June, and then a week later, he's going off to Barcelona and playing with the dream team and, practicing. He's still playing basketball. 93, he plays till June again. I mean, this guy has been playing basketball basically all year round, only having about a month off. For the last 3 years, he's exhausted, and there's all this pressure, and the pressure of winning on the court, the pressure of being a great guy off the court, knowing that he isn't that great of a guy off the court. At least he doesn't think. And there's just I know this has been an erratic episode, but I just find it amazing how you got a guy like Michael Jordan who's at the top of his game. Everyone loves him. Everyone wants to be him. Everyone wants to be, compared to him, or be the Michael Jordan at your sport, or be the Michael Jordan at, business or whatever. Yet this guy has problems, right? It's a lot of undertaking. The head of the PR department at the Bulls said, I don't want to be like Mike. I don't want to have that life. And Mike says it himself. He's like, this isn't a lifestyle you envy, where you are confined to this room. He's in his hotel room. He's laying back. He's smoking a cigar. And the media, the people who are recording the 97, 98 season, they come in, they start recording him. He says it. It's like, this isn't a thing that you want to be a part. He has no private space. I haven't even gotten to that part, but he says, look, I'm ready to get out of this lifestyle. 97, 98, he says it, because you got to realize, and the HR, his name was Tom something, the head of HR of the Bulls, he said, look, you understand, Mike leaves his hotel, he is bombarded by people. He's bombarded by autographs, photographs. He gets on the bus, he's bombarded. He gets off the bus, there are just people there. He gets to the locker room. He spends 5 to 10 minutes with kids with terminal illnesses, and it's, very commendable of him to do that, and that's awesome. He gets to the locker room, he gets dressed, he gets onto the court, he comes off the court, and gets undressed. He's bombarded by the media. He's bombarded by people after the media. He's bombarded by people when he gets off on the bus. When he gets off the bus, he's back to the hotel and he's bombarded by people. Wherever he goes, Mike is looked at under a microscope, and he just can't find space. And a big thing for him was golf was his space. Golf was a place where he was away from the people and he could compete and he could have a good time and gamble. He enjoyed gambling. And then now that's being under fire by the media. And the fact that he went to Atlantic City after he lost game 1 and then they lose game 2 wasn't good at all. And then this gambling book came out about Mike. Where is it here? I had to do a better job of organizing my notes and everything. But Frank something wrote a book about Mike and him gambling, and it was just a bad storm of Mike being under pressure on the court and then the gambling off the court and his reputation being tarnished. And it's what ultimately drove him out of basketball in the first place when he left in 94-95 and then came back towards the end of the season, 95-96, that's what drove him out. He was done with the lifestyle. He was done with being under that microscope. He was done with being under all that pressure and scrutiny. He wanted out. Also, his father passing away, I think, was the last straw with that, too, and I think they're going to get into that episode 7. I know this was a sloppy episode, but it's just because I'm just fascinated with the fact that just how all this time we talk about Michael Jordan and we never really thought about just all the pressure that he was under, all the scrutiny that he was under to be a perfect player, to be a perfect person, and he knew he wasn't. And if he wasn't, if people saw that he wasn't, he was going to get called out on it for it. And can you imagine if we got called out, if you just, you're listening to this right now, what if someone, every time you made a mistake on, in your job or off your job or wherever, you were scrutinized for it on a national level. On a national level. I made a mistake, it would be on TV. I mean, that's what Mike was dealing with, and it's just fascinating how we forget about those things, that we don't really see that light. So that's where I'm going to end the episode. I absolutely loved episode 6 because I'm a big fan of just finding out things that, or learning things that were there the whole time but you didn't really think about. And then I think that's a perfect example of that, where you can come to the conclusion yourself without watching episode 6 of The Last Dance that Michael Jordan was probably under a lot of scrutiny and under a lot of microscopes, and the fact that his life held a lot of pressure that was unattainable in his mind, that he knew he wasn't going to be the perfect basketball player and he knew he wasn't going to be the perfect human. And it's just amazing to me that we find those things. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. It wasn't really a review of the episode, but just a point that I wanted to talk about. I want to thank you for joining me once again. A little bit of I got to do a better job, folks, of organizing my notes. That's a note to self for last time. But I appreciate you joining me here for episode 6 of McMaster and the Mic. Episode 7 is going to come out Monday. That will be a lot more organized because we'll be talking about the Bears and their schedule. I want to thank you for joining me. See you on the flippity flip.